Hello everyone, welcome in. The 2024 through 25 NFL season is upon us, and today I will be predicting the winners for each week 1 game. I will be making one of these videos every week, predicting the winners of every game, just like I did last year with a couple differences. Last year, I predicted the exact scores. I will not be doing that this year. The other difference is that each week, I will be highlighting one upset of the week, one lock of the week, and one game of the week. I feel like those distinctions are pretty self-explanatory. Now, before we begin, I remind you to hit the like button if you enjoy this video, to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Let's begin. First up, we have the kickoff game, the rematch of last year's AFC Championship game, Ravens at Chiefs. Last season, the Chiefs went into Baltimore in the AFC Championship game and beat them 17-10, and I'm going to pick them to win this game too. Lamar Jackson, since Steve Spagnuolo was hired in Kansas City, Lamar Jackson has never played a good game against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes in his career has never played a bad game against the Ravens. On top of that, I believe that the loss of defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald will hurt the Ravens this year, and especially in this game. Next up, we have the first ever NFL game in Brazil, Packers versus Eagles. I think this one's going to be pretty high scoring. Jordan Love and the Green Bay offense obviously finished last season on an absolute heater, and I have no reason to believe they're going to slow down given their youth. But on the other side, the Eagles also have a really nice array of offensive skill position talent, and I still believe in Jalen Hurts despite his struggles last year. Ultimately, this game is going to come down to which team's defense can get more stops, and although I liked what the Eagles did in the draft addressing their secondary, these players are young, they will take time to develop. At the end of last season, the Eagles defense was easily one of the 5 worst in the NFL, and I think Jordan Love should have a field day throwing the ball against this Eagles defense. So give me the Packers, and I'm going to call this the upset of the week. To the Sunday 1:00 p.m. slate we go, and we begin with Patriots at Bengals. We don't really need to spend a lot of time on this one. I am aware that the Bengals tend to start seasons slowly, but they are not going to blow a home game against the worst team in the conference by a mile. I mean, the talent gap between these two teams is super obvious. Not much elaboration needed. Give me the Bengals to blow out the Patriots. This is going to be the lock of the week. Next up, we have Jaguars at Dolphins, 2 Florida teams meeting in Florida. And I think both of these teams have quite a bit to prove this season. Jacksonville needs to prove they are a contender with Trevor Lawrence healthy, because remember, he got hurt last year. The Jaguars finished the season 1-5. Missed the playoffs. Miami, on the other hand, needs to prove that they can compete against playoff quality opponents. 1-6 against playoff teams last year, 3-9 over the last 2 years under Tua and McDaniel. I believe the Jaguars are a playoff quality team, so that might suggest that the Dolphins will struggle here. However, the Dolphins are at home, which is where they are strongest. I will take Miami to win this game. However, I do like the Jaguars to cover the 3.5-point spread. Next up, we have an AFC South divisional matchup, Texans at Colts. Both of these teams, very pleasant surprises last year. The Texans, 10-7, won their division, won a playoff game when nobody expected any of those 3 things from them. And they look to take even more steps forward this year. The Colts, on the other hand, went 9-8, a game out of the playoffs with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback. The Colts should have Anthony Richardson back healthy, and while he has a lot of potential, he is still very raw, and for that reason, I'm going to pick the Texans to win on the road, but I do expect both of these teams to at least be in the playoff hunt at the end of the year. Next up, we have Cardinals at Bills. While the Bills are clearly the better team, there are aspects of this matchup that make it interesting. We all know the Bills have a very new wide receiver room, as well as a very new secondary. So these new guys are going to take time to gel. On the other side, the Cardinals should have Kyler Murray back and healthy, and they did add Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft, so the Cardinals offense does look intriguing this year. However, I have no reason to believe the Cardinals defense is good. The Bills should be able to put up points on them, even with all of their new offensive pieces. I think the Cardinals will hang around, but the Bills should win pretty comfortably. Next up, Steelers at Falcons. The X factor for the Falcons this year is the quarterback position. Kirk Cousins when he's healthy, is a very good quarterback. However, he's a year older, and he is coming off a major injury. Kirk has never been mobile in his career, and he's certainly not going to be mobile after this injury. However, I don't think he will need to be because Atlanta's offensive line is one of the best in the NFL. The Steelers have a good defense, and they are well coached. However, I don't trust Russell Wilson at all, and for that reason, I'll take the Falcons to win here. Titans at Bears. The Bears are a prime candidate this year to make the playoffs with around 10 wins after missing the playoffs last year, of course, due to the addition of Caleb Williams in the draft, along with a lot of other things. The Titans this year are interesting. They have a lot of new pieces, and they did add a lot of talent this offseason. However, Will Levis is completely unproven. If Will Levis is good, this could very well be a playoff team. However, they do have a completely new coaching staff, a lot of new players, and if Will Levis is not good, they'll probably be one of the worst teams in the league. I do think the Bears will win here because they are at home. Vikings at Giants. A lot of times you can tell how entertaining a game is going to be based on the quarterback matchup, and for this game, the quarterback matchup is Daniel Jones versus Sam Darnold. Yeah, this game looks like it's going to be pretty sloppy and terrible. I don't have high expectations for either team this year, but the Vikings do have a talent edge over the Giants, so give me Minnesota. We conclude the 1 o'clock slate with Panthers at Saints, and these are two bottom feeders. There's not really much to like with either of these teams this year. I think these two teams are ultimately going to split their games, so I guess give me the Saints here because they're at home. At 4:05 Eastern Time on Sunday, Raiders at Chargers. The Chargers should be much better this year than last year under Jim Harbaugh. I believe the coaching change from Brandon Staley to Jim Harbaugh is worth at least 4 or 5 wins. Justin Herbert should be back and healthy too. I don't have high expectations for the Raiders this year because they have an unproven defensive-minded head coach, and they look woeful offensively and woeful at the quarterback position. The Chargers are bound to overachieve this year, and I think they should start on a high note, so give me them to beat the Raiders. Broncos at Seahawks. The Broncos roster is pretty devoid of talent. Even if Bo Nix is good, I still don't think they're an above 500 team. I know they have Sean Payton, but Sean Payton can only elevate this team so much. The Seahawks do have a major question at the quarterback position. Is Geno Smith good? However, the Seahawks have a lot of talent at other positions on their roster, and they also did bring in Mike McDonald, who ran a very successful defense in Baltimore. I expect that defense to be much better this year, so give me the Seahawks in this game. Next up, we have America's Game of the Week, Cowboys at Browns. This will also be Tom Brady's on-air broadcasting debut with Fox. If I'm being honest, I think the Browns are a pretty terrible matchup for the Cowboys. Of course, the Browns' defense is elite, and we know the Cowboys, particularly their offense, does not perform well outdoors on the road. The Cowboys obviously have a much better quarterback than the Browns. However, the Browns have an elite offensive line, and they pride themselves on their running game. Those are the exact types of offense that we have seen this Cowboys defense struggle against over and over and over. So give me the Browns to win here, and I would not be shocked if they end up blowing the doors off the Cowboys. Undercard to Cowboys at Browns, we have Commanders at Buccaneers. Tampa Bay was a pleasant surprise this year, winning 9 games, the NFC South, and a playoff game when most people didn't expect any of those 3 things from them. They did retain most of their key pieces from last year, so they should be about the same this year as they were last year. Washington, on the other hand, is interesting. Of course, they had arguably the worst defense in the NFL last year. However, they brought in Dan Quinn. Their defense should be immensely better under Dan Quinn. And they took Jaden Daniels 2nd overall in the draft. Of course, Jaden Daniels is unproven, but he certainly has a lot of potential. And Sam Howell is not a very high bar to clear. I think it's very likely the Commanders should have a significant upgrade at quarterback this year. I feel like this game could go either way, so give me Tampa because they are at home. However, I do like Washington to cover the 3-point spread. Next up, Sunday Night Football, and what I expect to be the game of the week, Rams at Lions. Of course, these two teams met in the wild card round of the NFC playoffs last year in a game that the Lions won 24-17. to 23. Both of these teams have very high-powered offenses with excellent quarterbacks, excellent arrays of offensive skill position talent, very sharp play callers, and good offensive lines. The Rams, of course, did lose Aaron Donald this offseason to retirement. They will not have adapted to losing him in their first game without him. I think the Rams are going to struggle to get pressure on Jared Goff, and when teams can't get pressure on Jared Goff, he cooks them up. So I expect the Lions to win this one in a high-scoring thriller. And lastly, Monday Night Football, Jets at 49ers. I am not a buyer on the Jets this year. I think the roster is constructed heavily of aging, injury-prone players. While I think they should have a pretty clear upgrade at quarterback over Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be anything close to an MVP candidate this year because he's 41, coming off a major injury, and the last full season we saw of him in Green Bay, he looked highly mediocre. And I don't trust their coaching staff one bit. I quite frankly think it's a bottom 5 coaching staff in the NFL. The 49ers, on the other hand, had a bit of a rocky offseason, of course, with the Brandon Ayuk contract stuff. Of course, they recently did extend Brandon Ayuk, but the 49ers have been in the NFC Championship game in 4 of the last 5 years. They still have elite players all over their roster: Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Charvarius Ward, and they also have one of the 5 best head coaches in the game. I believe the head coaches, Kyle Shanahan versus Robert Saleh, that is a complete coaching mismatch. I'll add to that if you watched my predicting every team's worst game of the season video, I mentioned that Kyle Shanahan was Robert Saleh's boss in San Francisco, so he's likely familiar with the defensive schemes that Saleh wants to run. So give me the 49ers here, and this might be my hot take of the week. I'm not going to list that as a distinction, but I think the Niners blow the doors off the Jets. And that will be all for today. I remind you to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, to subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. I also encourage you to leave a comment telling me what I was right about, what I was wrong about, and how I can improve these videos in the future. I appreciate the feedback very, very much. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you all again real soon.